Welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. This is episode 9. I am Logan.
And I'm Luke.
And today we're going to be doing a Marvel MCU revisit with the current and upcoming stuff, doing a little discussion about that. And I think we'll start off with the most recent one that we both went to see. That would be Thunderbolts. And also, spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't watched it, it's fantastic. So if you haven't seen it yet, pause this, go watch it, and then come back and finish. But what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was actually like really kind of a breath of fresh air, kind of for like the new direction of Marvel, because like the main gripe of everybody right now for it has kind of just been it's like really disorganized. Mm-hmm. Not so much in terms of like now it seems like they have a good bearing of the projects coming out, but just in terms of like where all these characters are at, keeping track of everybody, because they're all so spread out, whereas back in like the Avengers days it's like all right, solo movie, and then they all come back and then everybody goes and does their own thing. But I thought this movie was very much a breath of fresh air, both tonally and like just the subject matter of it was pretty great. I gave it like an 8 out of 10. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm about right there too. Probably about an 8 out of 10. It's definitely not like the best Marvel movie that I've ever seen, but like I would rank it pretty high up there with a lot of the better ones. It's not top tier Marvel, but it's definitely above average. And I think one of the things I liked about it, because you were talking like tonally and stuff like that, is it had taken characters that were already established and made a cool story out of that. They introduced Bob, who is Sentry, and then. So that was awesome, just because like Sentry himself is just an amazing character. But other than that, I think the tone of the movie, also with like the comedy and stuff, it was a lot funnier than I expected.
It was funny, yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what you would expect from, a ragtag group of characters that we,
It kind of felt like the same sense of humor as like Guardians of the Galaxy, but like a little like toned down from that, but. Especially like in the tone of this movie, it was like a little more serious in certain ways, which I appreciated. Yeah. Something I just really in general appreciated about it is it felt like it had ironed down kind of a more solid theme for the whole movie, which was kind of like the mental health part of all of it, which I thought was cool because, first of all, it's all these characters which, have kind of gotten like swept aside by some of these projects that it might have been harder to keep a track of. So John Walker was Captain America, then got sidelined, and then he's just been off for a while. And then it's like there's Ghost from way back in, and then there's Red Guardian and Yelena and all them, and it brings them all together. And now I feel like I'm thinking of current Marvel after this movie. I think about those characters and I'm like, those are the main those are like some of the main names right now from this movie, and I wasn't expecting to feel like that from it. And what just really impressed me about it was it made me actually kind of like care about these characters, whereas before it was just like, oh, it's a one-off villain, and I could have thought they were interesting and such, but I thought it really like brought home like, okay, we're not going to forget about these characters, like they're still out there and now they're front and center, which is pretty awesome.
And I think that was, like, you were talking about, the fact that they were kind of just, like, side characters, Like, they were important in their stories and stuff, and they had important character development, stuff like that, through, like, other, heroes' stories and stuff like that, but they were never, like, the main focus. And I think shifting the focus onto them in this movie was really awesome, but also the fact that they got to the point to where like they're like the new Avengers, what they're calling them and stuff now.
It's like kind of a joke, but it's like, okay, but they are like a team now.
Yeah, they are like a team now, and they're like the new Avengers, and it honestly, all of that stuff didn't really feel like super forced either. Like it felt natural, which I know a lot of the time with like some of the more recent MCU stuff, it felt like they were like throwing a lot at you, and a lot of it did seem really forced, but this did not seem forced at all. Like the story was really good. It seemed natural. They all worked together as a team really well. And I don't know. I thought it was really good. And I thought it was done very, very well.
Yeah. I think too where part of that strength in enjoying it came from is it wasn't like the MCU trying so hard to make sense of everything it's set up already. It was just like, no, we're gonna just like pick up with these characters and like capitalize on like what they're up to and like what they're doing, and then they kind of like naturally weave that into like what's already been set up and where it's gonna go, which was pretty great. And then of course, like Bob Sentry Void is a new character to us, but definitely I think he's like one of the best reasons to like watch the movie because his character just before he's even like full on Sentry is entertaining. Like he's funny and he's kind of like goofy, and you're kind of just like, what's going on with him? When he comes out as Sentry, you and I talked about it. Like he looks great in the Sentry outfit. They do a good job of showing just how unbelievably powerful he is. And then they go even further with that when Void comes into it, just how Void is even worse.
Yeah.
And I guess the whole movie kind of centered around to this guy's own internal struggle, like literally outwardly into the story here. So it was very interesting to watch that unfold.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, once, the trailers came out and stuff, and we found out that it was going to be about, like, Sentry and stuff like that, a lot of people were worried about how they were going to introduce Bob and let him know about, like, his character and, like, his struggles and what's going on and stuff, which that is a lot to take in. Like, Sentry is very complex. Bob is very complex. Like, there's a lot that goes into it with Void and all that. But I think Thunderbolts, they've done a pretty good job of just kind of, like, laying out what you need to know and letting you, like, gather, all right, so he had he's a regular guy, had a bad childhood, his life wasn't great, he was on drugs and stuff, and then he wanted to make better of himself, get superpowers, and when he's doing good, he's Sentry, and then when it's bad, the bad side takes over and it's Void. Which is kind of what they gave you without just outright throwing it in your face, like, this is what's happening, like, let me write it out and explain it to you, which I thought was pretty good, because you didn't want it to be, like, overly explained, but I think they gave you just, like, the right amount of, like, all right, this is it, and this is how it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I just like to add that, like you said, like, Sentry, him in the Sentry outfit looked awesome. Also, just how, the way that they kind of showed off his power, like, it wasn't anything crazy, like, he didn't, do anything super amazing just because it would be kind of out of place for like the Thunderbolts. But I mean, like what they did show about him taking on the team and like barely, lifting a finger and just takes them all out. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, like and it was barely nothing. Moving.
Yeah, that was awesome. And was also great. Void was so
they did it so menacing. Well. Yeah. He's creepy too.
Yeah, I know. Like
it's just literally so cool. Just a silhouette of Sentry and with the little like white eyes.
Yeah, I was wondering what they would do with that because I was like, I don't want it to look like weird or like goofy because in the comics, they make him
the comments section.
Yeah. But in the comics, Void's kind of like, kind of similar like a big shadow. It's more of like a creature like entity rather than like that. But I think the MCU done a good job of making him like creepy, but also like all right, like that looks more natural. I guess
I thought it was cool too, just like the way that there's a lot to unpack about the how and why of Void versus Sentry with like the mental health part of it all, but I thought it was cool just that it was like this is the darkest part of Bob, which also is like a separate thing to him that also got its own set of powers from what they were doing to him. I thought that was just a cool thing. And then one of the last things I'll say on Thunderbolts before we move on is I've liked Florence Pugh's Yelena like since she first came in, but I felt like this movie really made me be like, all right, yeah, now I like really like her character. She's really cool.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree for sure.
Yeah, and she kind of has more. I like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow was like great and like classic, and I feel like she had a lot of like strength in that character. But I also feel like in the new direction of the MCU with all these new faces carrying it up. I feel like Florence Pugh's Black Widow is doing a good job of being like one of those main interesting forces of that.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I guess we move on from Thunderbolts. I think we said what we need to say.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump over to Daredevil Born Again recently ended, and a fun fact about it is when we first did our first episode of this, the trailer for Daredevil Born Again was one of our main talking points. So since then we've seen Daredevil Born Again, Captain America Brave New World, and Thunderbolts, which we all discussed in our first episode, which is cool. But yeah, Daredevil Born Again wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and there were some parts of it which definitely felt a little slow to me, but I definitely felt like, at least for me, it was a worthy successor, especially like in the last 2 episodes of the show I thought were pretty great.
Yeah, I agree. I was waiting, for the new Daredevil for so long. The anticipation was there. Like, I was excited about it. I wanted to see it. And, like, honestly, 99% of what they gave us was pretty great. Like, It was slow at the beginning, and there was, like, a lot of stuff where, just with, like, how he was not really doing the whole Daredevil vigilante thing, and it was more on the side of himself, not the vigilante thing, but him as a lawyer, the behind-the-scenes stuff like that, which, that can get a little stale sometimes, but they gave us enough, like, every episode with, like, Fisk as the mayor, and, the crime stuff, him still doing a little bit of vigilante work here and there, and also everything with, like, Hector Ayala and all that. Like, they gave us enough to keep it entertaining, but also just, every episode there was that part of me that's like, man, like, I just want to see Daredevil. Like, I want to see Daredevil do Daredevil stuff.
It did feel, like, necessary for the show to be like, all right, we're going to, like, slowly bring him back in, because it's, like, a big part of the story is, like, he lost faith in being Daredevil. Kingpin has turned away from, well, as far as we know from the beginning, has turned away from his, like, crime lord stuff, but I also liked that and appreciated that a lot. It doesn't feel like the show is just Matt. Like, it doesn't feel like it's just Daredevil. It's very much half and half Fisk and Matt, which is what I feel like that's supposed to feel like. So, especially when them two come across one another or are really close to each other, it's literally the 2 shows rolled into one here, meeting up with each other, and all the while they're both very dominant presences to each other.
Well, and I really enjoyed the show as a whole. Like, don't get me wrong. And I know, like, it being slow and stuff, like, it was, like you said, necessary for the plot, necessary for the storyline. And I did appreciate that. And I really did like how, like, in some aspects of the show, it just felt like more so like a crime drama type of show than it did, like a superhero show. And I didn't really mind that, because as much as I want to see punching and kicking, the MCU Marvel stuff, that's, like, also part of it. Because, like, they could have a whole series of just punching, kicking, beating up the bad guys, but, like, in this story, like, there's more to it. And I really did appreciate them taking their time to hash that all out as we go. Because in the big payoff, like you said, like, the last 2 episodes, those were great. And it was kind of worth the wait to just get it to where it was at that point. Because I feel like season 2 of Daredevil, this, Born Again, is going to be crazy from the jump.
From what they set up with it, and especially, like, too, they bring back Punisher in it, who he's in it for what, like, 3 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes total, and, like, with the limited time that he has on it, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, here's back to good old having Frank Castle back. And I thought that was, it didn't feel forced to have him in it too, because he's always kind of, to me, that, like, devil's advocate to, like, Matt's ideology of just being like, oh yeah, you think it's the same, it happens constantly whenever the 2 of them are together, where he's just like, yeah, you think you're really making a difference, but it doesn't get old. And I'm very excited to see where they go with that, because also the post credits of that was Punisher escaping, and we know that, yes, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is going to come out, but there's also going to be a Punisher Disney special, which John Bernthal has come out, and even before this, he said he wouldn't come back unless he knew they were doing the character justice. He came back and was like, don't worry, it's full on, I'm like full on Punisher mode for what this is going to be. Which, yeah, you can never do wrong by Punisher.
Yeah.
If they did, there'd be a war.
And what I really liked about how they included Punisher and stuff was, like you said, like, it felt natural. Like, it didn't feel, like, super forced. And I also liked that, as we talked about, like, the more, like, background stuff, like, setting the scene for what, like, the new kind of New York would be like with Mayor Fisk and everything, and outlawing vigilantes and stuff like that. It didn't feel like it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, like, the viewers are going to enjoy seeing Punisher and Daredevil together. Like, they weren't, like, together, like, all the time. Like, it wasn't, like, a big selling point to be like, oh, yeah, like, this is a Daredevil show, but also watch Punisher, team up with him and do, you know what I mean? They're best buddies. They do that. Like, that was not the case. They had a lot, like, they did fight together and stuff, but most of the time it was just scenes of them, like, arguing or debating each other or going on their own, doing their own part of what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah. This is another thing I find very interesting about their relationship, and especially how well they've done it since back in the Netflix days, and now that they're living up to it now, is there's like a underlying mutual respect between the two of them, even though they have extremely differing ideologies on how to deal with criminals. So it's like, you know, Punisher, like, at his core, it seems like he respects Daredevil for going out and doing this stuff, which is why, like, in the end he shows up to help him, and then Punisher even asked it, or said it straight up in the show, he's like, I think you came here looking for permission to kill somebody and you wanted me to, like, give you advice on it or whatever. I think Matt has always been able to see the humanity and understand why Frank Castle is the way that he is, but they just can't bring themselves to be like the other one. Like, they both have to do it their own way.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of their problem with each other, because Matt always sees it as, like, you should give people the chance to, like, be better and, like, not become what they are, but Punisher's just like, no, like, put them down so they don't get back up. And those are just very interesting dynamics for the two of them, and I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for them two to work together again in the future, so I'm excited to see both of them again.
I am as well.
Yeah.
And what's next on the chopping block?
So, in terms of big projects coming up, we actually were like, I'm kind of like shocked by this because it kind of took me by surprise. I thought there was more coming. Until Avengers Doomsday, which is May of 2026, as of right now. Like, hopefully that stays on track.
Yeah.
The next big movie release is going to be Fantastic Four in July. And, you know, we're about 3 trailers in now, it seems like, and they're, like, kind of, like, varied from one another. I think it's going to be pretty good.
From the trailers alone, I think I really like the styling, because it's like the retro futuristic and everything like that. And I think they've done a really good job on, like, all of the character designs and stuff too. Like, Silver Surfer thing looks awesome, as well as, like, their suits and all. You know, it all looks really cool.
Sure.
But a big part of Marvel that I've always thought that they nailed, and this is more so been a thing post Endgame, because they didn't really do this as much with Endgame, or, like, before Endgame. But, like, post Endgame, Marvel really started going into, like, the like, very, like, thematic movies and shows and stuff.
Sure.
Like, WandaVision was really, really good at that.
Really stylized.
Yeah, Loki was really good at that, the TVA and all that, and I think this is another one, and they're going to nail it. I mean, because I feel like they always do. Anytime they do, like, a real, like, stylistic, like, theme thing, like the retro futuristic stuff, like, it always works, and they're always hitting whenever they do things like that.
That's actually a really good point, because, like, you think back to kind of earlier Marvel stuff, it's all, like, building from the ground up, so everything's about the same thing. So while everybody's having their own problems, different time periods, different places around the world or whatever. It's all like leading into this one thing. In these phases leading up to this, they have had that opportunity of like, all right, what am I gonna make this show feel like, while still kind of going in that direction. And right now we're like slowly more so developing that idea of like what it's gonna be for the Avengers next. But yeah, Fantastic Four, I'm excited for. I honestly like don't know what to expect, what's going to happen in the movie, because I don't think it's going to just be like if you watch the 2000s Fantastic Four 2 movie, Silver Surfer and Galactus come, they try to destroy the world in it. This kind of seems like Galactus is coming, here's Silver Surfer. The Fantastic Four are first in line to stop them, so I don't think it's just going to be a straight up rehash of that, though. So I'm very curious, and I'm honestly, at this point, don't have a strong grasp of, like, what are they going to do?
Well, from the trailers and stuff, and all the people who are, like, cast in it and all that, and, like, the leaks and the rumors and stuff, I honestly think that a lot of it is going to be like, all right, here's the Fantastic Four. This universe's superheroes, whatever. They're famous superheroes, awesome. And then it shows you them fighting, like, some of their smaller villains, like the, more tied to Earth villains and stuff like that. And they'll win and all that. And then I think what it'll come down to is, like, Silver Surfer and Galactus show up. And also, I feel like it won't even be, like, that big, like, that long in the movie. But, like, they'll show up, and then they'll just be the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Especially because of the post-credit scene.
The Thunderbolts.
The Thunderbolts post-credit scene of the Fantastic Four's ship coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, because, it's been the deal with the Fantastic Four the whole time that they're in a different dimension or a different universe. And somehow you have to make that connection between how do they get over into the main area with everybody else. Or is it just going to be they're off to the side? But everybody's always been like, no, they're going to come over. So, yeah, we've talked about it. We think they're not winning the movie. I think that's honestly would be the smartest idea for them, because especially as I'm watching the trailers and stuff for it, they're seeming to try and, like, everybody sees the Fantastic Four as, like, these perfect guardians, superheroes and stuff. And then, like, you watch the rest of the trailer and you hear Mr. Fantastic be like, they ask him, like, are we safe? And he's like, I don't know. And it can't just be a rehash of that early 2000s movie. Like, they beat Galactus and everybody's happily ever after. I really don't see them winning. And I hope that they would not just try and wrap everything up nice and tidy, like, Silver Surfer, whatever they're going to do with her and the other Silver Surfer or whatever. We don't know, like, what angle they're taking of her story yet. And then of Galactus, I'll be severely disappointed if it's just like, yay, we unite to defeat Galactus. And then, oh no, there's trouble in this other universe. Maybe it's Doom.
Yeah.
We'll see. I do expect this movie, though, to give us the big, like, oh crap moment of, like, here comes Doom.
Yeah, by the end of it. I do as well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I honestly would be disappointed if Fantastic Four movie comes out and they don't lose. To be honest, I don't. It would kind of be shocked.
I'd be more shocked if they didn't lose, and I'm not saying like, well, I kind of am. I'm not expecting their world to come out happy.
No.
I do think it would be very natural though for even if it's just like the post-credits scene in Fantastic Four or whatever to be like, all right, you've seen all that and Doom's coming, and then it's just like, here's Doom, have him do something at the end of their post-credit scene, and then fill in that 10-month gap between Fantastic Four to Doomsday with everybody being like, okay, Doom is coming.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, I'm excited for this movie. I think it'll be very interesting.
I am as well.
And it feels closer. It feels farther out than it is. It's only a couple months away.
Yeah. And then lastly between this and Doomsday is Wonder Man, right?
We got Ironheart
Oh
and Wonder
yeah,
Man.
yeah, Ironheart.
Um,
When does Ironheart come out?
Ironheart comes out in June of this year, so next month.
Oh,
Um, I I've only seen Wakanda Forever once, so we haven't had like a lot of time to like sit with Ironheart's character. I'm not like the most excited for her as a character, but I'll watch the show because it's like it's Iron Man tech kind of stuff, so it'll be cool.
That's kind of where I'm at.
And especially if she's gonna be a part of Doomsday, like I want to know more about her, like going into it, because I feel like in Wakanda Forever, she's very much just like just a smart kid, shows up, knows how to use some Iron Man armor, and like make some new stuff with it, and then she's just there for support. Like I wanted to kind of like flesh her out a little bit if she's going to be more important in Doomsday. But yeah, and then the rumor of that is that Mephisto will appear in Ironheart, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's for some reason.
Yeah, but yeah, and then we got Wonder Man.
I'm very excited about Wonder Man.
Which you definitely know more about Wonder Man than I do.
I do. I don't really know. Like, I mean, hopefully maybe they'll just do like the traditional Wonder Man story and just, go through like, here's his origin, this is him, because he's kind of interesting, and also he has a very cool power set. Like it's like very traditional, like can fly, super strong, yada yada yada. So he's, a Superman-esque character, but also he has like other powers that he can use too that make him really really strong. Which is one of the reasons why I'm kind of excited, just because I'm like, we're going to get a show that just gives us this other super powerful guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like, for the more cosmic stuff that we're getting into and stuff like that, and like Doom is like a big bag, because we all know how strong Doom is in the comics and stuff. I think that's why they're starting to slowly give us like these like really powerful people, because we already have like, Captain Marvel and Thor and all that, but now like we're getting like Sentry, Wonder Man.
We've got Adam Warlock. Not to say that there's not these other like strong characters, or even more characters that could show up, but yeah, they definitely, in terms of the threats that are starting to come into the MCU, like there's some big power sets that we need.
Yeah. And I feel like we're starting to get there, and Wonder Man would definitely be one of them. He will be very useful, I feel.
Yeah. So one more thing that I just wanted to touch on for Doomsday is the absolutely massive cast list that we have for it.
Yes.
I'm like, I honestly feel like this will be kind of then with how many superheroes are going to show up in this. There's now going to be probably most of the remaining Guardians of the Galaxy, anybody who you could call like the current Avengers right now, the Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four is obviously going to show up, and now we know like all of the X-Men, like all of them are going to be in it. So I feel like what this says to me about it is, yes, there's going to be like these major players and stuff that are the good guys in it. But I do feel like, too, it's going to be kind of like Infinity War, where you're watching this event unfold, and it's kind of following it from Doom. Mm-hmm. And so whatever Doom's goal is going to be in this, I feel like it's very much going to be like, oh, he's going through all these places and scenarios with all these people, but it's not for all of them all at once, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I'm actually really excited for that. I kind of wish we had a little harder of an introduction to him already. Yeah. Maybe we'll get a little more context to that in Doomsday. In Fantastic Four. Yeah. But I think that's a very interesting idea for it. And it'll give us, because I don't think anybody's really expecting Doomsday to have a happy ending.
No.
I think it'll be the next Infinity War.
Well, and I've seen one thing, it's a pretty big theory, and it would kind of make sense and line up with some of the stuff that they've done in the comics, and this will just be real quick because we got to get wrapped up here soon. Sure. But the biggest thing that I've seen is with all the X-Men characters and stuff, especially being the old X-Men and stuff like that, a lot of what this movie is going to be about which I guess also will have to do with like the Fantastic Four and stuff like that, is like incursions and stuff where like, you know, universes get deleted by other universes, whatever, stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of people theorizing that what's going to happen is that it's going to be kind of like the Doom Battle World kind of thing, where the worlds are, you know, facing, like the universes are facing incursions, and it's going to be the X-Men universe and the mainline MCU universe. So the X-Men actually battle it out with what we have in the MCU, and then Doom is there to save it and do like the whole battle world thing and all that.
Wow.
That's been the biggest theory so far, but that would be a lot.
Yeah. I am, you know, I still have my, like, big question marks about Robert Downey Jr. being Doom. But I'm excited for it, and I like can see it. I can like see how it can work. I hope it's not just a really stupid reason. But I think, at least I hope they give him the time he's supposed to have to be a threat that is on par in the current MCU, like what Thanos was way back in the day.
I've kind of been thinking about it a little bit, and I feel like, honestly, like, the Doom that will be like the big major player in all of this, like the big mainline big bad Doom that they're talking about and stuff, will not be Robert Downey Jr. and will be somebody else. And I think that's kind of a red herring, and I think that for whatever reason, I feel like they're kind of just doing that to throw us off. And then I think in Fantastic Four we will meet Doom, but I think it will be Robert Downey Jr. Victor Von Doom, not necessarily Dr. Doom. You know what I mean? I feel like that could be a thing that could happen, maybe.
It could be. But yeah, so this is kind of... Are you ready to wrap it up here? This is kind of our general thoughts on where Marvel's at right now. This is also, I like, have kind of some new, renewed excitement in it from Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there, too. I think that's kind of, like, we watched it last night, and I've been thinking about it, I'm like, wow, like, we're getting back. Like, the feeling like I used to have with the MCU stuff, like, I'm getting it back. Like, I'm excited for what's coming.
So, yeah, now I kind of have that excitement to see those characters come back, too. And we'll be excited to see Fantastic Four when that comes out. But after that, we got a long gap in between Fantastic Four and Doomsday with just a few little pieces in here and there. So, yeah. This has been the Mild Opinion Podcast, episode 9. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.